Hey, now this is Dale Schweeman with the Schwee View. We have another program going. I'll start off again with we need to get those shares and likes, saves, shares, likes, saves, subscribes. Need to get those going, guys. Um, the other day I posted one about President Trump and whether or not he should have responsibility, take responsibility for the way of the violence in our country at this point, the temperament. Now, let me today say we're going to do a little farther on that one. Now, I'm going to say, yes, everyone has a choice. Everyone has to take responsibility for their actions. Everyone is responsible for whether they're going to do good or bad, love or hate. Donald Trump, as the president, sets the tone. As I said before, I was fearful of what was going to happen to the country because of his demeanor and the way he went about things. All right, before he was elected. Now he's elected. I am concerned that because of his rhetoric, because of his negative diatribes, because of his derogatory comments, and the way he has no problem or concern with his insults that he puts toward people, and yet he never has any thoughts or concerns over whether he misspoke or whether he was wrong. He is real good at taking credit for all the good stuff, but he is also real good at calling fake news. Anything that's negative about Mr. Trump is fake news. Anything that is positive in the world is because Mr. Trump created it. Now, here in the last week, there's two incidences I want to talk about. One is in Pittsburgh and one is here in Louisville, Kentucky. Pittsburgh's situation was man goes into a synagogue, he is white, and yells out, "All Jews must die," and starts to open fire on the Jewish people inside the synagogue. Now, there's a couple things about that. One, I think he's kind of silly to think if he's the only one shooting that he's going to kill all the Jews. It's going to take a lot more than one person. But the bigger question is why? Why does he want to feel that the Jews need to die? Why is our society feeling that anybody needs to die? Our school shooters, why do people need to die? That's not the answer. And why do we think or feel that because if we have a different view on life, whether it be race, religious choice, sexual practice choice, or gender, or any other situation, why do we feel the answer is for the other person to die? We have road rage incidences in which the solution by somebody is that the other person dies. You didn't drive the way I wanted you to drive, so I'm going to shoot you. That makes no sense. Now, the other incident here in Louisville, Kentucky, was a man went into a Kroger's. This man's also white, and went up to a man from the behind, shot him in the back of his head. The man fell to the ground, and he continued to shoot him into his body. The man died. This man then holstered his pistol and walked out the store as if nothing happened. No big deal. Another man in the parking lot had heard the shots. He had pulled his pistol. And as the man walked out the store, he saw the man with the pulled pistol and he said, "Don't shoot me. I'm not going to shoot you. White people don't kill white people." So the man did not with the pistol. He didn't do anything. Of course, he wasn't in a position. He wasn't a licensed police officer, so he really couldn't. He probably should have detained the man. He probably should have, but he didn't. The man didn't have a weapon in his hand at the time, so if the man with the pistol, who had the concealed carry permit would have shot him, he would have been held to charges. I would hope that our system would have dropped those against him. But these are all ifs and nuts and candies and buts. We don't know. Just know that the man did not detain him. He didn't have his pistol in his hand. He continued on into the parking lot, encountered another person, turned out to be a black female. He pulled his gun, shot her to death. At which time now the man that had his concealed carry permit, he pulled his gun and started shooting at the man, and they exchanged fire, and neither of them hit each other. I guess, in a sarcastic way, white people don't kill white people. The man could shoot and hit the two black people, but he couldn't kill the white guy. I'm just being sarcastic on that one. But the man was detained, and it turns out he has a interesting history that he kills the two complete stranger that are black, but he was married to a white woman, to a black woman, and had dated two black women. So what triggered this man to decide he wants to kill black people while he apparently in his life loved at least 3 black people? Why? These are the questions we need to figure out. But my show today is not about that. It's about what happened after that. In Pittsburgh, 2 individuals from the Muslim community, and I don't think we have to say anything about what the history between the hate between the Jews and the Muslims is. 2 Muslims, strangers to the synagogue, decided they wanted to do something to help. So they started a GoFundMe page so that they could help generate some funds to help pay for the funerals of the victims at the synagogue. They wanted to generate $25,000 to help. As of today's taping, it is over $150,000 that they have generated. Now they want to be able to help pay for all the funerals. See, the key here is, with the history between the Jewish and the Muslims, that much hate and animosity, but yet 2 people have said, no, we have no hate. These are total strangers. And it was a hateful thing that happened to them. Let us step up and be the beacon of light, the beacon of love, and let's do the right thing. And they did. Now in Louisville, Kentucky, the aftermath of the shooting, the nephew of the lady that was shot and killed in the parking lot, he was interviewed. And instead of having rage and vengeance in his mind, this man, well-spoken young man, said, we don't need to have this violence. We don't need to have any of this strike back. He said, why kill? Why shoot? He said, we're better than that. And then he said, you're better than that. The wording of that made it to each individual. You are better than that. And I agree with him. Each one of us is better than what it takes to kill someone. Killing is a tragic thing. We've talked on the Jewish and the Muslims. Now, the history between them both is the original Testament, the Old Testament. And in Genesis, it talks of the killing between Cain and Abel. When Cain kills Abel and God comes and says, hey, where's your brother? Cain says, what, my brother's keeper. And God says, I can hear his bloods cry out from the soil. The original wording is bloods, plural, because it means all of these ancestors. More than just one person dies when you kill somebody. You kill all of their ancestors, everything who they are and everything of who they ever will be. Words from Unforgiven, Clint Eastwood's movie. you take away everything they ever were, everything they ever are, and everything they ever will be. Killing is so permanent. Why do we want to do that? So we have a choice every day of whether we want to love or whether we want to hate. Hating is easy because that's what everybody does. You're cool if you get the violent temper. You're cool if you're the one that's going to destroy something. You're soft if you want to love. You're soft if you're the one that says, hey, let's build a nice, pretty flower garden. Why? How did we get to that point? Okay, well, we now have a president that seems to feel that trash talking is the best way to go. And now our country is starting to develop even more hate and violence than we ever had before. We now are starting to think that it's okay. So where I said in my last show, does President Trump deserve any credit or responsibility in the way our violence is going? After this weekend, I'm thinking this might be a good thing because our country is starting to actually see just how ugly and wrong our hate and violence is. Here in Louisville, Kentucky, at a gun show, they're starting to actually sell Nazi and paraphernalia again. Why? These things being brought out are going to create education. With our news media now, it's going to start creating an educational system in which people can actually start looking at the difference between right and wrong, good and bad, love and hate. And we can see where we're going. I'm Dale Schweeman with the Schwee View. And this is the question I ask to you. Do we want to love or do we want to hate? Let's share this video. Let's repost it. And let's start learning that there's a choice to everything we make. Everything we do. We can have a bad moment, but we don't have to choose to let that bad moment be negative and carry on the rest of the day. We can take that moment and say, well, that was a bad one. Let the next one be better. Dale Schweeman with the Schwee View. Post, like, share, and definitely subscribe. Thank you. I'll see you tonight.